Finally, the interview segment I've been training my whole life for. Ping pong with Joe Duran.
Joe, thank you so much for doing this.
Okay.
So, Joe, what is the bionic advisor?
The bionic advisor is the blending of people and technology. Do you remember the $6 million man?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that would be an example of a bionic advisor. More current, maybe like Iron Man. You're a human first, use technology to be competitive and stronger than you would be without it.
So in that example idea, what's a bionic advisor that advisors know now?
So the most powerful by far is Vanguard and what they're doing, which is they have advisors who are centered in one location, and their communications with clients, the actual communications is all iPad-based and technology-based, and the way they communicate on an ongoing basis is through the client's phones and computers. So they really could not have the relationship without the technology. Very much like Iron Man is not Iron Man without his suit and all the gadgets he has.
It's interesting because I think advisors hear bionic advisor and assume that you're going to talk to me about robo-advice. Is robo-advisors bionic advisors?
No, because the human element is missing.
Okay.
So it depends on, in my mind, you have three extremes. They have the human-only advisor who uses technology the way he might use a pad and pen. You have on the other extreme the digital solutions that lead with technology, that really the interaction between the human is with technology. A Betterment or a Wealthfront is an example of that. And then right in the middle, we think is the most interesting part and the highest growth area, which is humans first, but using technology enveloped in the entire relationship. So there's very little differentiation, but the relationship is with a person.
So for an advisor to really stand out as a bionic advisor, what are some strategies in order to make sure they get the right technology?
So the way we think of it is that the advisor has three parts to their business. They have the back office, which is the plumbing and infrastructure, and then they have the middle office, which is preparing for the client meetings. And that part is incredibly cumbersome. So most advisors are spending hours just prepping for a client meeting. The big advantage that digital solutions have is they can completely streamline that. So the idea that your middle solution can actually integrate, so when your client onboards, it's communicating automatically with the planning software, with the custodians, with the investment management agreement, and you're never double inputting a client's name. You never have to take data from Money Guide Pro and input it into the CRM. Everything's communicating. And then there's the front office, and there's a dreadful gap between what's possible and what is being done. Most advisors today still use a yellow pad and pen in their first meeting with a client. The clients feel like they're being lectured to. Very few clients like going to a financial advisor. And why? Because it doesn't replicate any other experience they have in this world. Using technology to gamify the upfront experience can completely change your relationship with a client and incorporate them into the decision making. And I think that's one of the most important elements of what has to happen in our industry. Advisors have to understand that digitization is not just the middle office. It's more importantly a way to engage clients and make it a collaborative experience, which we have very much still in the let me tell you what you're going to do mode, rather than let's find out what you're after. And finding out what people want, using technology to do that is a game changer for any advisor. But unfortunately, they're not doing it. And there's very few tools. So, you know, when I think about what the software providers like MoneyGuide and eMoney and FinanceWare have done, which is provide a very good dashboard for the actual planning experience, nobody's built the front end to say, how do we collect the data? How do we find out what's really important to clients? How do we find out how their biases affect them? And so we spent millions of dollars on the technology to gamify that upfront experience so that the client right away goes, wow, I feel like basically what Apple would do if I were going to have an experience as a financial planning client. So again, reimagining that experience, and why it matters so much is if you use the right technology, it actually makes the human more important. It actually brings out what really matters. And you can do the things that no computer can do, which is bring empathy and judgment to the conversation. And so we know that if you blend those two, you become a superhero. You become truly untouchable. So in those three areas, most advisors still are concentrating in the middle office, an area where there's almost no impact to the end consumer. All it does is provide efficiency.
So when it comes to gamifying, it makes sense that we're playing ping pong while we talk about this. If you're an advisor with the yellow legal pad, what's one way to get started?
Well, one way to get started is to start thinking about what is my process and how do I change that process so that they are actually holding the pad and pen. What we did is we started with an actual game. We started with a game that actually helped people select and answer questions that told them how they think and feel about money, which, by the way, is open source, so anyone can use it. It's called Your Money Mind. Next thing we did is we said, look, we're going to create a protocol to create priorities in how people value what they do. And by doing that, we created the cards and a deck. Now, for the average advisor, what they need to do is think about their workflow and the steps that they do from the beginning that a client comes in to when they leave, and say, which elements of this can be done differently so that the client can participate in that relationship. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of technology solutions. We had to build everything ourselves because everybody's constantly thinking about efficiency rather than engagement. And efficiency is incredibly boring to our clients. What they care about is engagement.
Absolutely.
So what I would do if I didn't have the resources I have is I would start by having a very simple, engaging checklist that says, here are the 3 questions I want you to answer. Because at the end of the day, this is about getting the consumer to walk themselves through a process.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for joining us. We'll play a little more ping pong, and thanks for walking us through this.
And I think you're beating me 2-1, by the way.
For Investment News, I'm Matt Ackermann.
Thank you. I'm determined to get that point back.
He was waiting the whole time. That's awesome.